Many of you may know Mrs. Lodl for her skills in welding design, but what you may not know is about her skills when it comes to canines. Let's take a look into Mrs. Lodl's passion for showing dogs. How many dogs do you have and what type are they?
So right now at my house there are 5, but I co-own dogs with other people, so I have other dogs that live at other people's houses. So I think there's about 7 or 8, I'd have to count, that I actually own and I show. And they are whippets, which are kind of like a small greyhound looking dog. So I started showing dogs when I was an 8th grader at the middle school. My dad and I would go to dog shows, and we just went and watched them. And one day we were watching, I don't even remember what was showing at the time, and he goes, you know, as much as you love dogs, you should do this. And so when I was in 8th grade, my dad and I built a dog kennel and we bought my first show dog. And I just love dogs. I've just always loved animals in general. And the thing about showing dogs is not only you're not just showing off your dog, you're promoting a breed that you love. So the first thing is every dog breed, they have a written standard. So the very first thing is your dog has to be as close to that written standard as possible. Before I even start to show a dog, I evaluate them as a puppy, and if they're close to that standard, then that's the one I'm going to show. When it comes to training, to practice holding still, we do a lot of socialization. So like the puppies get, you know, everybody touches their feet and their head and their teeth and all that. And I just practice having them trotting on a leash and holding still for people to, you know, evaluate them. And as far as like getting a dog ready to show, and with whippets in particular, we have to make sure that they're in good shape. So they run a lot. Sometimes I go on bike rides and they run next to my bike. And then grooming wise, that's not very much. I have a lot of special shampoos that I have to like bathe them with, but not too much.
So how are dog shows judged?
So every breed has a written standard, and it's actually a committee, and it's called the parent club, so that a judge is supposed to read over and judge the dog based on that. So the American Whippet Club had a group of people that wrote the standard, and it gets revised every like 10 years. And the thing that's crazy, or not crazy, but maybe irritating about it is everybody interprets the standard a little differently. And so I could go to a judge who doesn't pick my dogs at all, and I have no idea why. That's because they interpret the standard differently. That's what you do at the breed level. And then after your dog wins best of breed and it goes to the group, those dogs are all judged based on their standards, and it's whoever's, like if you watch Westminster groups, for example, and you watch the hound group, and you're like, how do I judge a whippet between a basset hound? Well, it's based on, is that basset hound as close to its standard as that whippet is? And that's how that particular part of the dog show is judged. The highest in a regular dog show I've ever won was I got a group first. I won the hound group I was in high school, I was a senior in high school, with a dog named Lucky. Then there's a division that's called owner handled, meaning I'm the owner and I'm handling it. I'm not sending it off with a professional handler. I won a best in show there. There's another show that's in a different registry. There's AKC shows, which are the ones you watch on TV. Then there's UKC shows, which are a little bit smaller, and I won a best in show there. And then you have specialty breed shows, which the best I've ever done on those is I got an award of merit. I think that's probably, and then when I was a kid, I won best junior handler often, so.
Now you know a little bit more about Mrs. Lodl and her life outside of school. Next time you see her, make sure to ask her about her dogs.
Guess who's back? Unfortunately, spring sports weren't able to have a season last year due to the COVID-19. We caught up with some of the coaches and athletes to see how they feel about not having a season last year. What are some of the biggest cons of not having a season last year that affects you this year?
I think just experience for kids. Right now we have 3 or 4 returning players and 37 kids trying out, so that's a big number of people that don't have varsity experience because of our canceled season last year.
Not having a season last year, what are you doing different to push yourself this year?
Just working out a lot, doing a lot of rehab, and hitting with my buddies and throwing.
What are your goals for this year?
Definitely bring a championship to Delta because I haven't won one in high school yet, and looking to make all conference this year.
Not having a season last year, how do you think it will affect you this year?
I think the biggest thing that we've learned so far is, especially with our underclassmen, our freshmen and sophomores, we don't exactly know where they were time-wise or distance-wise or whatever event they're in coming into the season.
Are you trying to push your athletes harder this year since they weren't able to have the experience of playing last year?
I think it's a balance. I think if you push too hard, then injuries happen, and I always kind of half joke with the kids that if you get injured in March, you're no good to me in May, which is when we really need you to be at your best. So there's a balance of trying to catch up a little bit, but you're not going to catch up, in 2 weeks or even in a month. So we have to make sure that we stick to the training schedule that we have planned. That way we can avoid injuries, but also get back into competition shape.
Not experiencing playing baseball or doing track last year, this being your first in both, how do you feel about doing both sports this year?
It's definitely a little hectic with schoolwork and everything else, but I feel pretty good about it, and it's definitely an experience, and it kind of keeps me in tune so I don't get burnt out in one sport, so it definitely helps me, I think. So.
With not having a season last year, what did you find out that you missed the most?
I think one of the things we missed the most in girls tennis is Smash Cancer. It's our big event that we run every year, so not being able to do that and not being able to raise money for the families is a big loss, and so we're really excited to do it this year.
Not having a season last year, what are you doing different to push yourself this year?
Not having a season last year was pretty difficult. It's hard to have a routine without having practice every day or different circumstances like that, but really you just have to make sure that you are pushing yourself in the way of keeping your body fit still, even though you're not on a routine schedule, tennis-wise, and also just making sure that you're hitting outside of practice as well, because that routine's not there again, or just making sure, like now we're in clinics again, so we get to have that back as well. So just trying to stay active and stay playing.
What are your goals for this year?
My goals for this year are to play some tennis for sure, to make sure we get a season in, and just play my best all around, and really have a good atmosphere with the team, and be able to hopefully go to this state again. That was a big goal of ours this year, and I think if we all work hard, I don't see why we couldn't.
Not having a season last year, how do you think your team will do this year?
I don't think not having a season last year really affects anything because golfers play golf. So we didn't have the season, but kids still played. They play over the summer. They practice. They go to MD, so it won't really affect anything.
What are your expectations for this year?
Well, hopefully we do well on Saturdays. Saturdays are the big events. We'd like to do well in the county and the sectional and all the invites that we play in. Those are the big matches. So hopefully we can compete well.
What are your goals for this year?
Win some golf tournaments as like a whole team, like get first as a whole team, get the low score as an individual, and win sectionals.
Not having a season last year, what are you doing differently this year?
Just going to MDs. It's like an indoor golf facility, so you can hit like when it's cold out, and then getting lessons and going to the golf course.
Being a new coach this year and not having a season last year, what is your mindset coming in?
My mindset coming into this year is positive because it's kind of like having a fresh start to the season. We've got a good group of girls and a really young team, and I think we have the ability to do some really big things this year and a lot of potential in this team.
Not having a season last year, what are you doing differently this year to make up for last year?
Well, we've been doing workouts and working really hard preparing for the season.
And what are your goals for this year?
Our goals are just to compete and play well with all the teams who we're going to face and hopefully make it far.
The job for a school custodian is often underappreciated. For the last 10 months of the pandemic, our custodians have worried even more about cleanliness. They are the key to helping us stay safe and clean, which is keeping us in school. Tells custodians do it all with little fanfare.
How has COVID changed your job?
Well, it's made it a lot harder. We have to clean a lot more. We've always try to clean everything, but now we have to make sure like doorknobs, desktops are done. We try to touch everything with a good cleaner. In some ways, it's made it a little bit easier, like at ball games, because we don't have the cleanup as much as what we did before. In the long run, it's made it a lot worse because you got to make sure everything is sanitized, especially after you get up lunches. We have to make sure there's more tables, more chairs to keep everything separated. So it's been challenging.
What does your day as a custodian look like?
Cleaning everything up. You get in here in the morning and you make sure all the lights and everything is turned on and everything is set. Make sure everything is done, everything's cleaned off and ready, especially for your breakfast. Make sure your tables are down, trash cans are all ready and clean. It's really, as soon as I get in here, you hit the floor running. You gotta go, because I have a certain area. Everybody has areas that they have to take care of. So you gotta come in and make sure that your area is done, but with me being the head custodian, I gotta make sure everybody else's area is done.
What did you do before you were a custodian?
I worked for Labor Local 1112 for 33 years. I retired from there when I come in.
How has the rise of COVID changed your appreciation for a school's custodians?
Well, I think it's only enhanced what I've always had as far as respect for them. Their jobs are difficult enough already, and we've asked them to do extra work every day and to be extra thoughtful in what they do. So I don't think we can thank them enough for what they've stepped up to do over the last 8 or 9 months.
What is your favorite part of your job?
I would say how everything changes all the time. I'm not doing the same thing every day. I'm always doing something different. I like that. I don't like to have to do the same thing over and over and over, every day, which some things kind of are, but there's always something different. There's a toilet, or there's, a spill, or there's always something that's changing throughout the day. That, and I like the kids.
What's your favorite memory as a custodian at Delta?
They're really just the kids. There's some of them I know by name and stuff, and they know me, so it's kind of nice.
Cool. There you have it, folks. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about our school's custodians and appreciate everything they do for us. Next time you see a custodian, make sure to give them your thanks.